here to talk to you today, as you know, about work-based learning and job placement. And we're going to go over our processes and talk to you a little bit about what we've been doing and what we'll be focusing on in the future and what that process really looks like. So thanks for taking the time to listen today, everyone.
So as Kelly just mentioned, we will define our, we're really going to focus on this presentation today on defining our processes. We'll highlight some activities, but really take a deep dive into what the process for work-based learning, sorry guys, as well as job placement. And then we'll also identify some areas that have been going really well on our campus, as well as highlight and even ask for question and answer time, illuminating some of our areas of opportunities, because we in this space just soak up all the knowledge and take back as much as we can, as well as share some of the plans for next year.
All right. Thank you, Sasha. Woo, our team. As most of you know, it is just the two of us. So forgive us for any lack of robustness, but I have to tell you, we are just a team of two, but we are mighty, right, Sasha? We work really hard and I think we work really well together, and we have a great, although it's really just the two of us on our direct team, we have some other really great supports amongst the faculty and some of the deans. And so it's just the two of us, but we're coming into this really optimistic and really grateful for the people that we work with. So, all right, I'm going to get us started. And the first thing I'm going to say is something you will hear me say several times throughout this presentation. And that is that this really is a work in progress for us. So I've only been doing this for a couple of semesters, and I'm somewhat limited on the hours that I'm working because I'm adjuncting at City. And Sasha has been in her role in job placement for a while, but really this has been taking place over the last couple of semesters. So we're really learning as we go and are very excited to receive feedback from you when we get to that point. But I'll be walking you through what we're doing now, and some of these things are evolving and changing. So you'll see here, and the first thing I want to point out to you is this arrow in the center, right? This black arrow, and I can't think of a more eloquent term for it, aside from this double-sided arrow. And what this really means is we see the process itself as working in both directions. We see a lot of this is initiated on our part toward the faculty, and we also see a lot of this coming from the faculty. So we really feel like that engagement and that ability to move back and forth is a huge part of our process at this point. There are two first big components of our process that we want to talk about, and sort of how work filters and how our connections and touch points work through these filters. The first is our work-based learning advisory committee. Sasha will talk to you a little bit more about her job placement advisory committee, but we instituted advisory committees to be part of our process. Not only did we hope to have support and to learn from the individuals on our committees, but we hope that they would help us get in touch with faculty, so that faculty referrals could, in some cases, and department needs in some cases, could be initiated and filtered through the work-based learning committee. We have found that to be the case thus far. We found it to be really useful and helpful, and a great way for faculty to connect with us, to initiate those conversations. Next, you'll see when faculty initiate contact with us in regards to work-based learning, or when we initiate things with faculty, it's usually in regards to training and resources. And that happens in a couple of different ways. So I think you'll see this back and forth process really manifest in this. So the first way that you really see these training and resources come into play where faculty are concerned are our annual workshops for faculty. So this is a way for faculty to initiate contact with us and us to work with them and provide them with resources. We also hope eventually, and so we put future in here, we hope to engage in some additional future online training in that regard. The next way we connect with faculty is by providing them, and this has been successful, we'll talk more about this in a little bit, with announcement and syllabus language. One of the things that both Sasha and I think feel, as do some others on our campus, is that faculty are already implementing work-based learning into their courses in many different ways. They may not know to, I think Veronica even said this earlier, they might not know to call it that. So we wanted to give faculty language to use in their Canvas announcements, or language on their syllabi, so that they had the ability to sort of call work-based learning what it is, call it out, make sure that their students were aware it was an option for them, and give them another touch point way to connect. Another way that we connect, so another one of these initiations with faculty, is through classroom presentations. Obviously, the goal there is student engagement. And then finally, I think one of the most important ways we initiate and they initiate contact regarding work-based learning is through drop-in office hours. Quite recently, we initiated drop-in office hours. We were doing them kind of informally previously, but these drop-in office hours allow faculty to sit down with us to say, I'm interested in bringing work-based learning to my classroom, but I'm not quite sure how. Can you look at my syllabus? Can we go through my lesson plan? Can you talk to me about some ideas you might have? Or can we go through the glossary, for example, and talk about the different ways this might be incorporated? So those are things that we, amongst some other things, are able to do in our drop-in office hours. I want to call out now, before I go on to our SWOT analysis, which is but is not part of our process. I want to point out the plus signs that you see here on the right-hand side. These are all data collection points. These all suggest or indicate areas in which we are able and are currently tracking data. We're able to collect data. It's not always sophisticated. We're just starting out. Sometimes these are basic spreadsheets. Sometimes we're collecting things on Google Forms, but we're able to monitor and collect data so that we can use that in the future to further hone our processes. Finally, we felt like it was important to call out, and you'll see this in the bottom left-hand corner, the SWOT analysis. This is not part of our process. Like, it's not a part of the flow chart, if you will, but we are conducting a SWOT analysis. At the very least, it's been started, and we're not complete yet. But we believe it is integral, and that is why we've included it here today, not connected to this flow chart. But we believe it is really critical in our ability to hone this process moving forward. So our SWOT analysis will help us identify those strengths, those weaknesses, those opportunities, so that in the future we have the ability to build this out in a more detailed and complex way. Sasha.
So I just wanted to showcase some of the artifacts for when we actualize this process, what does it look like on our campus right now? Since it is the two of us, so we work with the professional development office to offer those annual trainings that come out 2 times a semester, in order to introduce what is work-based learning, going over those glossary of terms, talking about the ways in which faculty is already doing work-based learning in their classrooms. And then we roll out and we do a full campus roadshow over and over again of all of our resources. And once we get to resource identification, we roll out this very, very, very sophisticated Google form. It is just a Google form for faculty to request those resources. So at this point, they're able to identify any specialized industry representation that they would like in classroom, identify areas that they may not be able to come to our drop-in hours, but want to have these conversations with us in further detail, or ask just general questions. And so this is our collection data and faculty requests for any of those touch points that Kelly just mentioned.
Thank you, Sasha. All right, so we decided to be fully transparent here. I don't know that there's another way of doing it, but this is a work in progress. When Sasha and I first started working together a couple of semesters ago, the first thing that we really determined is we wanted to focus on the process with faculty. And it is because we believe that faculty are often engaging in work-based learning and don't realize it, or faculty are they're on the cusp of engaging in work-based learning, or could easily implement it into their coursework or guest lectures or other manners of engaging with their students. Also, frankly, our students just spend a lot of time with their faculty. They spend a lot more time with faculty than they do with us, and they often develop really important frankly profound relationships with them. And so we decided to sort of throw our time and effort behind faculty first and to consider touch points directly with students second, because we know our students already have touch points with job placement. So that is really that was our thinking and our strategizing when we first came on. So we didn't put a lot of effort right away into the process for students, but that is because we felt that the touch points with faculty would help us reach students. We do, however, have some directions in which we think we are moving, and directions in which we hope to focus in the near future. And you'll see that here. You'll see that our next priority is a student intake form where students can directly self-refer, right? Where students can say, hey, I'm interested in work-based learning. I'm interested in A, B, C, or D. So one of our next goals is creating that student intake form specific to work-based learning rather than just job placement at this point, so that they can self-refer or they can work directly through faculty and can connect with us that way. We've already talked to you a little bit about the faculty referral process, so we won't belabor that point. But I will point out that you'll see both of those, we hope in the future, will be important data collection spots as well. Sasha, anything you want to add here before we move on? All right.
No, just our campus, not at this time, pre-COVID and post-COVID, doesn't have a specialized like work-based learning office or a designated space. So this is a part of when students identify and know that they want these services. We're still in the production area of what does the space look like online? What does this look like when we return back to campus? We're in the process of developing a lot of the processes for just student identified. So student identifies on their own. At this point, this is why we're heavily on this roadshow, heavily working with faculty, so that when students say this in their classes, when students identify this in other spaces that we may not physically be present in, that it triggers and alerts faculty to be able to refer them to us.
Right. Thank you, Sasha. All right.
So in that regard, while there is no identified process at this time, while that process is under construction, we did want to identify and highlight some of the areas that work-based learning is still happening on our campus from our office. So there's just a couple artifacts on the screen. One of those that I believe we spoke about in our last equity discussion, and so that's why I was excited to bring it here. But we do an annual Black Excellence across the industries, working with our Emoji community, working with Hubu, bringing specific career expertise from Black voices that are not heavily populated in their industries. So we have archaeologists, lawyers, doctors, et cetera, anything that you can think of, come and sit on this panel with these classrooms. And we do a Black Excellence across the industries. And it's just a shop talk, it's just an industry tour, and it's an opportunity for students to really see themselves in spaces that they would not normally occupy. We do this with women, with City Women Rock. We do this with our Moja community, et cetera, et cetera. So this is just one of the artifacts. In addition to that, we often work in this hybrid model where we'll have organizations like ServiceNow that you'll see on this screen come in and do an industry overview, and then it'll also be an employment opportunity for students that may be eligible. And so I'll talk about that a lot more in the presentation, but I wanted to showcase some of the ways that work-based learning and of that glossary of tools is still happening on our campus.
Thank you, Sasha. So I just want to add one thing. We wanted to sort of dial in just a couple of, as Sasha mentioned, artifacts. And I wanted to show you one additional thing. You see here in the bottom right-hand corner, this is actually a slice from a liquid syllabus. Some of you on here know that I've moved to liquid syllabi, and many of my colleagues at San Diego City College have as well, and possibly many of you. And so one of the things that we have done is to provide not just standard syllabus language, but also liquid syllabus language, so that faculty have the ability to customize language to work directly with their courses and with the students they already know, right? They've already developed relationships with students in their department, so that they can incorporate that into their syllabi, and students are more likely to then come to them with questions about work-based learning, and they can then direct those students onto us. But you can see here just one small example of the type of language we offer. This happened to be a speaking and listening class, and some of the language we offered in the faculty member customized briefly is this. Are you interested in strengthening your listening and speaking skills for a specific career? Talk to me. Though I have already integrated projects into our course to help you build 21st century employability skills, we might be able to customize a project to your specific career goals or connect you with a mentor in your desired career field. So we don't tell faculty what they have to put, but we give them some options and some language examples, some exemplars, if you will, that they can customize and work with their students on.
Being unmuted would help. Okay, so on to job placement processes. So there's three overarching ways that students, that job placement operates on our campus. So the job placement coordinator, myself, is working in these three separate buckets. So number one is that data analyzation and campus recruitment. We work specifically with institutional research, much like some of the other campuses have reported, pulling lists and rosters of students in the capstone courses, students that may have identified special needs, we get disaggregated data from our special population programming, and then from those campus recruitment, from those roadshows that we do annually. So when the data analyzation and campus recruitment happens, then there are two separate things that happen there. You'll see the first side is the student intake and assessment, and that's when we're working one-on-one with one student or with just one classroom. And then the second bucket would be faculty assessment and planning. So this is, we go on the roadshow, we talk about the process, we look at the data with institutional research, and I'll talk about our committee in just a second. And then we actually create some programming specified from those needs. So whether that be the data is telling us a certain trend about an industry, or a faculty is reaching out for a little bit more information, or our faculty are asking for a specific employer, then we sit down and we create some program planning. Before I get deeper into that, I do feel like I need to back up and say that both Kelly and I have instituted some advisory committees for both of our offices. And so the Work-Based Learning Advisory Committee, and I'll show you a little bit more of who's on that committee in just a couple slides here, but that serves as like a sounding board and as advisory sitting with that data as well. So we take the data from the institutional research and we say, okay, here are the trends, here are the students, here are the needs, and what ways can we all collaborate with special offices? And that helps us build our team so that it's not just a party of one, it's not just a team of two, then we kind of create a wider net amongst the campus community. And that also helps us with campus recruitment. I'll show some artifacts in the next slide of what that campus recruitment looks like and what those roadshows entail. But with the advisory committee, along with ourselves, we're able to say, here are the things that we're looking to accomplish within the semester. How are the ways that we can work collaboratively to make that happen? All of the little data sheets that you see there are where we track data, right? And so data is given to us from our institutional research office, that's tracked. When students fill out the intake and assessment form, that's tracked. When we do faculty assessment or some program planning, all of that is tracked and monitored, and there's specialized documents for that as well. So the second part of this is that faculty referrals may happen, whether that may have come from our actual campus recruitment, so that overarching professional development activities that we lead, or we both go into each one of we beg and borrow and steal and get time for each one of our dean and campus programs, and we go in and we do specialized presentations in every single one of our campus programs. I'm sorry, not just campus programs, but each one of our campus offerings, sorry. And so we go into department meetings, we'll go to the dean's meetings, we will go in any space that will allow us, and we present this information and we say, in what ways can we partner with each other? Generally, if you go to those adjunct faculty nights and say, hey, I'm willing to sign up with your classes, I'm willing to work with you, help me to gain access to your students, and I can provide industry insight, or I can provide jobs for students, faculty are willing to sign up. Our faculty are amazing on our campus, and they're one of our biggest supporters. And so from those faculty referrals, you'll still see, especially when we get referrals from faculty, they get a little bit of homework from us, right? And so that consists of that program planning and what ways can we really work together. And then the second part of that is that we work directly again with the students, and all of that process starts when we work with students will always lead back to that student intake form. So anytime a student has either self-identified, come from a faculty member, or got wind about a campus presentation that we've had, right, in the department, then all roads kind of lead to that student intake form. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. And then lastly, because of our roadshows, because of our campus recruitment, because of some of the things that you'll see here, students are self-identifying more and more. And so when self-referral happens, that's great. They'll still do the first stop before they're able to set up an appointment, is that they have to do that intake form. And we'll do an initial assessment and a one-on-one appointment. So next slide, please. I wanted to showcase just one of our recruitment tools. So we had these postcards pre-COVID that would go out, and they were in every single classroom. They were in every single department meeting. They were all spread amongst our campus, just letting them know what our offices are able to do. You'll see a little bit more in terms of career services and job placement when it comes to our campus. We're kind of doing the same, and I'll talk about that process a little bit more in just one second. But for student identification, again, that's going to come from our institutional research office. We create specialized Canvas announcements for those classrooms. So if the faculty identifies one student, cool, I give them a little bit of extra homework and say, what made them think of this opportunity, and what ways can we collaborate together? And then we'll create specialized Canvas announcements so that it's an equitable process, not just that one student is being referred to our process, but will you be a friend to us and post this Canvas announcement so that all students in your classroom know about our opportunities? Again, those annual faculty presentations, and one specific thing that our office does is we do annual priority sector trainings. And this has been really essential. When we went on our original roadshow and listening tour of just our campus, it was essential for us in job placement services to really be able to mirror what the industry is offering with our campus program. So this is specific language, specific tools for our campus to be able to identify, I teach such and such program, this directly aligns with this priority sector in San Diego. And so those have been able to create and generate a lot of buzz for our office as well. Again, I cannot reiterate this enough. All roads lead to the intake form for all students, for all faculty members. Everything has to end with the intake form, and that's for goal setting and benchmarking. And a lot of that reason is, next slide, please. So on our campus, career services, job placement, work-based learning, all of that is held in the transfer center. All of that is held in one office. And right now, like many of you, we are very, very understaffed and underserved, right? And so on our campus, all roads at this point, and before we brought Kelly on just 2 short semesters ago, landed with me. So the buck stopped there. And a couple of our sister colleges talked about this, right? We were awarded this opportunity. I got this amazing job. And then quickly, we also had to develop all things career employment, all things job placement, and then also career readiness for students. And so this is where the advisory committee really came into fruition. And so it's a combination of faculty members, instructional counselors, and counseling faculty members, the deans, institutional research, and also voices from our students. And so this is the advisory committee for job placement that meets at minimum twice a semester. And we sit down with those tough issues. We sit down and I say, I'm having a lot of students in the assessment placement, not recognizing really how to create a resume, and what ways can we work with each other, and what ways can we get them employee ready so that I can refer them to the positions and the employers that we have for them. So part of that, what we envision and work together to create is our office created, if you can click on that now, Kelly. We have 4 different guides for our campus, and I've only brought one of them for you today. But we have a career guide, a faculty guide, and then what you're looking at is the job search guide. And yeah, you can feel free to scroll down,
Okay.
Kelly.
I'm just
So the
scrolling
job
down.
search, yeah, so the job search guide is one very comprehensive one-stop shop to be able to help students when they're not yet employer ready. So this goes over everything that they need, from keywords, how to craft a resume. Everything is hyperlinked to either a video or a separate document, a fill-in document, how to network, using LinkedIn properly. You name it, you think of it, it has it in this guide. And so every single venture, from that intake form, when students may not be eligible or students are 100% on mark, they're able to access this guide and work through these. And then we do one-on-one benchmarking appointments. And so some of those benchmarking appointments come from just my office, and I'm working with them to identify an employer. Some of those benchmarking appointments, I tap in some counselors and say, hey, they're just really not at this level yet. In what ways can we partner to ensure that we're working on the resume and getting them employee ready? So each one of those aspects are in this guide. Oh, we don't see it yet.
I am not able to get back to this. Let me see if I can. Oh, there we go. Nope. Here we
Okay,
go. Sorry.
that's all right.
There we go, everybody. Can you see it again?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay.
So all of that was fancy language to say that student caseload and support is critical for our campus because it's a one-stop shop for many of our students. They can spin around in a circle, but they're eventually going to end back into our office and then land back with me. So I use specifically a tiered system. So our intake form identifies when students are eligible, ready, and non-ready, and what they need. And students will get specialized communication plans by where they are in the process. If they're in the career exploration process and have absolutely no clue, they're going to get separate literature from someone who may be job ready and ready to apply to employers today. In addition to that, all of our students get access to, I knew it was going to happen, guys. 1 second. He's like, no. 1 second, please. 1 second. All of our no, it's not. Please go lay back down. So all of our students get access to employment activities, which we run bi-weekly on our campus. So this is just an artifact of one of them with GK and aerospace. But again, focusing on those top 10 priority sectors, we offer specialized and smaller hiring fairs bi-weekly every single week, every other week on our campus. The month of May, for example, has exploded, and we're offering 2 every single week. And these are anything smaller, from Amazon to NIWIX Pacific to GK and aerospace to I can't think of any more off the top of my head, and now I'm very, very distracted. Yeah, so those are the main things that I wanted to cover on this page. Next process. Deep breaths. Okay, so employer outreach. So employer outreach, again, happens in 3 separate buckets as well. So again, all roads still lead up into the job placement coordinator. Our office is still a team of 1 for career services and employment readiness, as well as employer outreach. So my job really is 50-50. The student caseload, and then working and nurturing our relationships with our partners. I really want to talk about the time here to reiterate our guiding principles that we developed in this space, because those are heavily utilized when I'm thinking about the recruitment process, from either going out and attacking our own employers, or working with employers that may come to us, or fostering relationships that may have existed on our campus already. And so I'll talk about what that looks like in a little bit more detail. So Number one is the first bucket is that we have an employer outreach list, in which we call our target list or our hit list. And so these are employers focusing on those top 10 priority sectors, again, aligning them with our campus programs, who are hiring the most in our region, where's the magic really happening, and those employers go on our target list. And then we tier the target list based on a preferred employer or non-preferred employer. Non-preferred employers just live on our job board and have opportunities available to students. Preferred employers, so they're hot on our target list. We really want to see campus engagement, and that's where you'll see those Work It Wednesday opportunities. That's where you'll see those campus engagement opportunities for students to learn about their industry if they don't have any direct employment opportunities at this time, et cetera, et cetera. Etc. So really working with them to establish some type of activity or connection specifically to our campus. The second one is campus referral. So again, we have amazing faculty that have existing relationships that sit on several boards on our campus. And so some of the employer engagement happens by referral. So whether that be our president from the many various boards that he sits on, to faculty and our tax faculty, right? And so saying, hey, I have a friend who owns a business and they're looking for an intern or they're looking for an employee, and what does that process look like? And so again, everything really starts in that regard with a campus partnership meeting. So I'll meet with that employer directly, and then we will do that same thing, level out. Do we want them to be in the tier 1 or the tier 2? And then get some student engagement based upon which tier they're in. Regardless, they're all going to live on our CCN data management system, in which I'll talk about. And again, where you see the little note marks is where we track all of this data. And then the last one is when the free fall happens, right? We all know in job placement, some of the employers just come looking for us. Sometimes they know about our programs, know about our campus, know about our activities, know about our amazing students, and are ready to and are willing to hire our students. We always kind of closely monitor and evaluate the opportunities that they're offering to our students first, and then engage in that partnership meeting. Some individuals just get an email saying, this is how to register on our job board, thank you so much, and we look forward to blasting this email out. And then other individuals may be looking at, we may be looking at establishing a more developed system on campus. Next slide, please. So that link that we're running out of time here, so we don't have to go into it. Again, for the employer outreach, all of that, as much as everything, all roads lead with the student intake form, everything starts with our CCN data management system. All employers have to be registered on there. Our employer target list is also tracked in the CCN, and then all employer intake meetings distinguish what type of campus participation that we'll have. In those conversations, we're always heavily talking about equity and really looking at our more marginalized populations because of our campus community. And then we all roads lead down to student participation, which does that 360 that goes back to the intake form for students who may have already identified that they want to work with that type of employer. Next slide, please.
Let me unmute myself. All right. Well, thank you very much for going through all of that, Sasha. Sasha has more focus than I could dream to have. So bravo to her. A couple of things. We just want to summarize and talk to you quickly about moving forward now that we have gone through our process maps with you. We'll talk briefly about progress we've made, opportunities we have, and then just moving into 2021. So we're going to be pretty brief here. Progress we made, we talked about a lot of this as we went through the process maps. We've held multiple campus-wide trainings. You can see a few examples here. We launched those advisory committees, which have been really useful. We've begun our SWOT analysis. We survey our campus 3 times a semester. We've provided all of that, we really hope, rich and customizable language for faculty, for their syllabi, and for Canvas. We've collaborated with faculty on work-based learning via drop-in office hours. And one thing we didn't mention is we've gone through training for gold standard project-based learning so that we can share that information with faculty. We do have areas of opportunity, we all do, right? And some of these opportunities for us, we really just see as generally not weaknesses, but things that we can use to move forward and strengthen our team. So we do hope to fine tune our campus-wide processes and staffing over the next year. We hope to continue developing common language and a standard location for work-based learning. That's something that we kind of mentioned a couple of times briefly. And then we hope to fine tune access to employer engagement specifically for students. So moving forward in 2021, obviously we're going to be focusing on SG21 reporting. We hope to complete our SWOT analysis, and we hope to move forward with some more detailed online work-based learning faculty certification and or training. And with that, we will open it up to questions. Yay. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly and Sasha. So if Kelly and Sasha have 2 minutes, anybody's welcome to stay on just for a couple minutes to ask those questions. We do know that a lot of us usually have back-to-back appointments throughout the day. So if you aren't able to stay, we hope to see you at the COP, where Imperial Valley College will be demonstrating their processes. So thank you to anyone who can't stay for just 2 minutes, but if anybody else has a question for a couple of minutes that wants to stay, I think Kelly and Sasha are available for a couple of minutes. We're seeing some comments here. Angela said, amazing work with limited resources. So.
And of course, we will have you guys back for a deep dive as well. So
yes.
If anyone is feeling rushed, like they have something else to go to, you will get another shot at the two of them. Don't worry.
We're open to it. It's okay.
Awesome.
We'll keep timing it to where there's no time left for questions.
That was just our gift to you, everyone.
It's Richard. I want to say, I think it's great that you do the language help in the syllabi. I think that's such a great best practice, because so many faculty are doing what you said. They're doing excellent, but they don't know how to incorporate that into their syllabi. And the work-based learning is happening, but they don't know it. So I just love that you've taken such a proactive role and say, here. So thank you for that best practice.
Thank you. We found it genuinely successful, so we're really happy to share that with you.
Yeah.
I had a quick question for you, Kelly. I know you mentioned the liquid syllabi. Can you go just a little bit, reiterate that for me really quickly? Because I was like, I kind of get the concept, but I just want to make sure that I understand how you're able to implement that.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share some articles or some examples. I'll share my liquid syllabus with you anytime. So anyone who's interested, just shoot me a message and I'm happy to share. But liquid syllabi are usually created, they take a little more time up front, right? You create them essentially as websites. Like I just create them in Google Sites as a site itself. And what it does is they're really accessible on a student's phone. So they're more equitable and accessible. You can embed videos, you can embed links right there. So like if I want a student to be able to contact me, my email is right there and they're just like clicking on it and they're emailing me, their faculty. So everything is right there at their disposal. They also frankly speak to the realities of students' lives because they're on websites, and frankly, we're just on our phones all the time. So they really get at some of the equity disparities that we see, but they also are just more realistic to people's digital realities. And they're really easy to customize. Once you have one, you just copy that over and you can create a new shell for a new course. But they're wonderful. So if anyone's considering a liquid syllabus.
It's also very commonly used on our campuses because not only is it reflecting the realities, but it's liquid because it's a movable syllabus.
Right.
So things can change. Students' voice is a very huge part of it. It's all the aspects of being able to just be fluid. And that's why it's a liquid syllabus.
Yeah.
It's a fluid document for your semester and for your classroom. And so faculty have found it very rewarding, especially during the pandemic, right? It was popular before, now it's really popular on our campus. But it's the opportunity to just be fluid and have a lot more student voice and student input in your actual syllabus.
Yeah. We put student videos in them. And, I put a link to a video of myself and our department and a welcome video. And so it's a great place to also introduce students to something like work-based learning, right?